Tonight we're going to be talking about the part of our registration system where, for most of our camps, we are in deposit phase. Camp Gorton has ended its deposit phase and moved into naming phase. And we're going to talk about how that works, along with spending the what we would call the unallocated credit that you paid on your deposit, how camperships work with the system, and also how to enable and use parent portal for your families, making things a little bit easier on that for you as the leaders on there, and then answering any questions that we can come along that way. As a recap for what I was saying during openings and stuff, audio and videos are muted on this. We ask that you leave it that way, just for the sake of the presentation. And then please use the chat icon to post any questions, and we will answer them just as quickly as you can. But rest assured, I'll stay on as long as we need to answer any questions for tonight. So with that, I'm actually going to turn my screen off so that I'm not a distraction and you can just see my screen share that's going on. Okay. So where we're at right now is moving right on up is our Great Falls Council website. So the gfcscouting.org. Now, a lot of stuff we're going to do is going to be coming through here. But another area I wanted to point out for information, in case you haven't seen it yet, is we do maintain a Facebook page, a group, really. We have our council Facebook page, which is what we'd call the forward-facing page. And then we have our water cooler, which, if you haven't subscribed to it yet, this is where we post a lot of our information and share it. So, like an information about this was coming out, events as they become live and ready for registration, or new information that's out there. This is how we share it out with our leaders and families, anybody who subscribes. If you haven't joined yet, I would strongly encourage doing it. Just get onto Facebook and search water cooler Great Falls Council, and you should find us. There's a couple questions for you to answer when you put in for the membership, and we prove it pretty quickly. And then you can stay up to date on all the information that's going out there. We do try to keep everybody informed in a variety of formats. So the water cooler being one of them. Another avenue is Scoutbook. So you have bound by now to have gotten an email that says you have a message from the Great Falls Council. And that is us sending an email through the Scoutbook system. Similar, if you're using Scoutbook in your unit and you've used it to send out emails or calendar reminders, same thing, council level, and we will send those out. They come to the email address that is on your My Desk Scouting or your Scoutbook profile. So if you haven't seen any of these emails from us, one, check spam, but two, go into your My Desk Scouting or go to Scoutbook and check your profile and make sure we have the most current email address. We also recently sent out a council newsletter and a camping newsletter, and those were sent to those email addresses as well. So we do use that to send out information as well. Okay, so going with um, summer camp and Scout BSA summer camp, Cub Adventure Camp, um, and also Birchbark expeditions, they all work with a deposit phase. At some point, you would have gone in and made a reservation. And we've covered that before in a previous video. And if you have questions, just stay on afterwards about creating a brand new registration and we'll go into it. So from here, we're going to look at going back into our reservation and moving from that deposit phase to our naming. We know who our scouts are, and we're coming to go and do that. So, one thing to help you out before you do that, there are some questions that come up ahead of time when you're going to enter your scouts and your leaders and things like that. And if you were to go back to the original registration page, now this one is for Gordon, but there is a unit planning tool for camp, and there is a similar named one for Cub Scouts. And what that gives you, just switch my share screen for a second, is it will give you a PDF tool to use that you can either type it in or print it out, handwrite stuff in, but it gives you some of the information that you'll need to kind of help you move through registration easier. So on here, you can see that, your unit number, obviously for a Cub Scout camp, it says pack, district, council name, campsite, just kind of fill in the blanks. But then you'll see, you've got your camper names. The first couple sections are your adults. Youth are assumed after that. But it's really for you. It's not for me. This is, use the tools you see fit. Birthdays, which are important. On the adults, we do need the date of birth because Department of Health. And then on the youth, there are age restricted activities. So we need to have them. If you don't put a birthday in for them, um, then they're just completely barred from certain merit badges. Member ID number. We're going to talk about this as we do our registration or our update. But member ID is important for our adults to make sure they're actually registered in scouting. And on our youth, we actually will upload the advancement at the end of summer camp and Cub Adventure Camp when advancement is done. So once camp is over with, as opposed to you getting blue cards or an advancement report and having to go back to your unit, give it to your advancement chair or whoever to enter the information in, we will actually take care of that and email you that it's been complete. So it's generally 1 or 2 weeks after camp is over with. We will upload all the advancement for you. Then, of course, there's emails, t-shirt sizes, allergies, med forms. And if the early release is if people are planning on leaving early, you have a copy of the early release form. Nothing we need now, just you're planning on it. So it really is a planning tool for you to make registration just a little bit easier. So going from there, I want to just go back to the council website. Now, to get to your registration, there is a couple ways to do this. So one is if you have that receipt, there is a link on your receipt from when you registered initially that will you can click on it and you can go right into your registration, from there, and you'll be able to do that. You can also, especially if you're managing a couple of units, like in my case, I work with a boy troop and a girl troop. So those are two different summer camp registrations, and that's important. If you're working with a boy troop and a girl troop, those need to be two separate registrations because we got to track that and make sure the housing's all set up and appropriate. But from here, right at the top of our council website, there is an account login. So if you click on that, and then here we are, and I have a password already saved. So I come on in. So this is me because it has my name up here. Now, if you have not used this for any reason in the past, and I really hope you have, um, if you use it in another council and this is your first time using it here, it's actually the same password. So if you do go to another council's event and they're using Black Pug, and you'll know because it looks like this, it's the exact same username and password, and it never changes. The difference is here we now upload all of our membership data in here. And if you are the primary leader, so Scoutmaster, Cub Master, Advisor, whatnot, or committee chair, you by default have access to it. If you're not one of those people, so like in my troop, I'm a committee member, but I handle all the registrations. If one of those two people email me with your name, email, and of course the unit number, and are requesting that you have access to the roster for registration purposes like these events, I will absolutely add it in. Usually done within 1, maybe 2 days, depending on how busy things are getting. But so here we are on there, and right under me, so you can see I have my roster, which is you creating a personal roster of your own. And we've done a video on this where we covered like a lot on all this. But then I have access to these units. So we're going to take a look. We're going to set this for Troop 84B. So you want that, and then just you're not looking at these. These are just looking at other events that are coming up. But if we look at activity, again, I can Troop 84B's activity and their summer camp. So there's my session of summer camp right there. I can view my roster. I can import a roster. This year-round camping is if you've been using rentals, if you go to one of our great camps and rent facilities there, this is where you can actually access your rental, either what your history has been or what the rental is coming up, especially if you needed to make a payment or you need to make adjustments to sizes. So here I am on Troop 84's B's summer camp. And all I have to do is click on that, opens up, it gives me the basic numbers right here, and I go to view registration. So here we are in the registration. This is what I set on deposit phase. So when I originally set up my deposit, I said we had one youth, two adults, just set the numbers. And did our $100 deposit on there. right here, I can change all of these. I can set to what I want the numbers to actually be. And if you still think that you're not sure about those one or two people, don't include them now. You can always add them later on. If you include them now, you're paying the deposit for them now. And then once you've paid the deposit, there's very few circumstances that they're refundable. Usually we'll say to you, you got somebody else in your unit who's going to go, and then you just transfer deposits over to that person. So unless you have the person committed, just put in the committed people right now. So if we look at the registrations, we have our youth, and this is obviously a Scouts BSA, but the Cub Camp works identical. So Scouts BSA are adult. Provisional, for anyone who's not familiar with that term, that is a scout going without a unit. So they're going to be there by themselves. An additional week of camp. New scout including crossover, they get a little bit of a discount. If they're going 3 weeks only, if you've got split leadership. So that's your part-time leadership. That's if you have, hey, Joe's going to be up here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but then Tom's coming up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can actually set those dates, and they're hit on a per day rate. Um, and then you're not paying for full week registrations or having to call somebody or set it all up. It's actually all in there for that. So, but you can come in and make all the changes that you want to it. So if I wanted to take this and I'm just going to go for, let's see, we'll say, oops, I don't mean three. Yeah, three youth right now. And then I've got my two adults. So from here, I can confirm the information, confirm participants. Okay. So that could be the end, right? Taking me right into checkout that I confirmed and moving forward. I'm going to go back to return to registration details. So do I need to update anything in here? So this is the billing information that's going through our main contact, what we're looking to do on here. Um, Parent portal is interesting. So here you can turn it on. We'll show you another area, but you can do this while you're setting it all up. So if you haven't attended or watched an earlier webinar, Parent Portal is an option that you can turn on as the registration contact. And what it'll let you do is the parents that you're giving codes, and I'll show you these accesses, but they're given a login and a password for their scout. They can then use that to go in and make payments on their scout. And the neat thing is if let's say a family has two scouts, and like mine does. You'd have a password for each one, but when you first log into Parent Portal, it'll ask you if there's another scout or person to add in, and you can put the next login in, and it merges them in. So the next time you only got to use the one, and they always show up on there. Um, so that works out really kind of neat. If you choose to in Parent Portal, um, if you choose to in Parent Portal, once it's just kind of saved and locked in, if you choose to in Parent Portal, you can also let the parents sign up for merit badges. That is entirely a unit decision if you do it or not. So some troops, it's always the registration contact that signs up everybody. Some they make everybody do their own, and some, and I'll pick on my troop in this one, we do a mixture. I am happy to sign everybody up for their merit badges as long as they provide them to me, but I also enable it so that they can do them themselves. And part of that is because when they turn on, they're on, and everybody signs up at once. So more people getting in, the merrier. Okay, so I've got that to confirm my information. So we'll go here. We're going to head into checkout to lock this one in. Now, of course, the minimum amount is because we're getting up to uh, each people with their credit going on there. I agree to make the payments. Now, in case you haven't seen this before or you're concerned about that money coming up, there is pay with a credit card. This is pay by mail, which means you're mailing or sending a check into the office. You are um, using Scout account money, at the office, which you'd have to contact us for, or maybe you have a unit debit or credit card, you just didn't want to put it in this system. So you could do that and then authorize payment, and it will send you the receipt. Now, this is what comes up next is, and it's only this time it does it when we're doing this. It won't come up later on unless you have credit on here. But I have what they call unallocated credit. Last time, when you first created your registration, you paid a $100 deposit and you've got to spend that somewhere. Now, I don't have to do it right now because I can cancel this out because, I don't have anybody named. It can make it hard if I know where it's, unless I know exactly who I'm naming later on. So I'm going to cancel this. Um, and you can see right here, because it now took me to the registration where I have everybody. So here's an allocate existing $100 payment. So you'll have that, and then it's up to you to decide where it goes. Now, this is really, really important. And you see this every time you come in. Um, because if we don't spend it, we don't tell you where it goes. It's up to you to decide if you're putting it on, spreading it among kids, or if you're putting it on your adults. Um, but the reason I say it's important is you could have this showing that everything is paid, but you have a late fee hit you because you didn't spend the credit. Everything looks like it's balanced, but you have $100 credit there. Hey, we paid the full fee, but why did we get the late fee? Somebody's late because you didn't spend your credit. So please make sure you're looking for that orange button. This really becomes a thing at now with deposit, because what we've also had is a unit sees their full bill, mails us a check to the council office. We put it in because it's unallocated credit here, so the system will take the full thing, and now you're that plus 100. So I really don't want you to throw more. I mean, if you want to give me more, I'm happy to take it, but I don't think you want to spend the extra. So just remember, you're always going to have that. Um, so from there, what we'll want to do is one, you can always, this is the registration contact, does not mean they're going, but by default, since I logged in, by default, I'm on here, but this is easy enough to change. So if I click on update information, this is the same thing that you saw before when you first did your registration, right? Your name, contact information, campsite selection. So unless you have something that's changing, you really don't need to go into there. Just canceling out because it wants me to do my allocation right now. Um, so to fill in who you're going with. So on this, if you remember, I selected my troop, right? Troop 84B, which is the one that I'm into right now. So because I did this, I can make this a lot easier on myself. So this is a scout. I click on the autofill button and it brings up my troop roster. And since I'm on youth, it's only cycling the youth right on here. So we're going to pick this youth here and fill information. I'm going to go pick this youth here and I'm going to select him and fill information. And I know what you might be thinking is like, hey, can I select a bunch of kids at once? No. You have to select each one for that one because if you have multiple registration types going on, it won't know where they're going. So it makes you do it per person. Now, let's say you don't have the roster, you didn't log in, whatever the case may be, you really like typing stuff out. This red button for update information, I can click on it and I can fill in the information myself on here. However, I don't want to. I prefer using autofill. So I'm going to go to autofill again. And you do have to watch that you're not losing your place because I'm just going to do this real quick here. So there is the same scout listed twice. So I put them down twice because it will let you do that. So it's easy enough just to click on autofill, change it to who it's supposed to be, fill it in, and you see it filled it in for you now. Now, some things to what's going on some of these screens here. Correct. And that's where, so the question was, does autofill only work if the scouts are already entered into the system, or does it pull from scouting.org? So it only works if they're entered in the system. You can create your own roster, but we upload the membership data once a month. So once a month, we do an upload of everybody that's there from the council system into the Black Puck system. So um, they should be there, but that should still, unless you had a big, which would be a great problem to have, a big membership input. You grew all of a sudden. You should have them all there. We try to stay very responsive with this. So um, from here, it still tells you that there's missing information. Well, what's missing? Well, let's take a look here. What do we got? So I got a name, member ID number. There's that. There's that. There's that. There's a date of birth. Okay. So it looks like I'm done. I reviewed it. Cancel. I'm not ready to do that yet. Okay, I reviewed it. It's gone. It just wanted me to review to make sure that the information was correct. Now, what do some of these symbols mean on here? So this means that the registration number is confirmed, which that's a good thing. If you manually typed it, the stuff's still in our system. So it's going to confirm that they're there. Down here, it's just confirming a rank on there. And it's only current from the last time we did an update, which again is once a month. Now, I will get to Camperships, but I want to go to the adults next. So I have my adult down here. So it already has me. Like I said, by default, it was me. So I'm going to go ahead and see what's missing. Oh, it didn't have my gender for some reason. It didn't show in. So we'll fill that one in. Allergies, dietary restrictions, what's my leadership position? So a wide variety to choose from. So you can put in your position there. Now, here's the other fun part. Youth protection certificate. We need that for the Department of Health, just like my date of birth has to be in there. So for your youth protection certificate or in your unit, these can be gotten in a couple of ways. So let's take a quick look on how to get this. So if you haven't been there before, my.scouting, and how you do this is how you do this, right? You can either, if you have the access in your unit, you can go collect them all, or you can have each person download their own and send it to you. But you do need to have it because we actually have to have those for the Department of Health, and it's very impractical for us to go search and download 200 adult youth protection certificates. So you're here, my.scouting, if you haven't looked at it before. Mine's are going to look a little bit different just because of my console access, but it'll all work the same. Click on menu. So come down to organization. If you are with multiple units, you'll have multiple options in here. If you're only with one unit, it'll only be on that unit. So we're going to go to 84B, and you have the tools here. And then I have training manager. So I click on that, and I want to search training. No, I'm sorry. I want quick search. So there you can either enter a member ID or you can enter somebody's name. Oh, not in here. I like it because I'm doing my own. Thanks. That's some fast typing on my part, I guess. Normally I tell you I take that out of my video when I put it up, but I'm absolutely keeping the fact that I spelled my own last name wrong on the video. That is funny. So, hey, it fills in a little bit more. Okay, so there's Mark McGrain. Select. Spelled my own name wrong. You guys be sure to pass that story along. Tell him, I was like, yeah, he sounded like he was doing a really good job until he can't even spell his own name in the system. Okay, so here you will find all the trainings that this person has done, right? So, and there's their youth protection status, but we go and we find the youth protection part. So, right, they have the youth protection thing here, and I selected on it on the button there, and then their certificate. So click on that. So it's downloading the certificate. Okay. You didn't see it open up my PDF program, but not a big deal because you're going to see in a second. So I go back to my registration. Oops. There we go. Okay. So upload a file. This is required. So you'll not be able to complete registration unless you have these things. So I'm going to browse. It was just in my downloads. It was called this proxy. Open, save. Now you have it. It's showing it's right there. And if you, so for you to up, so the question was, does it matter that your YPT will expire before your camp session? So I got a couple answers on this. No, it doesn't matter for our upload. The upload only notices that it's a file that's uploaded. It's not even checking what the file is. However, with that being said, one, your YPT absolutely has to be current for the entire time that you're at camp, and two, anybody at any time that is expired on YPT can consider themselves suspended from the BSA program. They cannot participate in anything without valid YPT. So, and that's a BSA national standard. We're getting a lot better about sending those notifications out, but the day that your YPT expires for anybody in a unit, you cannot attend a unit meeting, activity, event. You certainly can't attend a council or district event without being current in YPT. No valid YPT is an automatic suspension of your BSA membership. Um, and then down here is, just throwing in the date of birth. I would also say that, yes, it's good for 2 years. If somebody's expiring, don't wait till camp because a lot of people do theirs near camp time and the system really bogs down. So give yourself plenty of time. So, um, so I'm going to say a yes and no on that one. You have to upload something. It's read between the lines on this one. Um, you have to upload something. The system is not seeing that it's a YPT certificate, it's seeing that it's a PDF file. So if you upload the excuse me, if you upload the same YPT certificate for everybody, realize before you go, make sure you know you did that to get it up there. So either one, take the time, download it, or have everybody get them to you. Or if you put up a file, whatever it may be, please make sure you got back in there to correct that before camp starts because we have to turn this stuff over to the Department of Health. And if we don't have it to do, we can't have you coming in because the Department of Health hasn't cleared it. Yes. No, bring upload. So the question is if you upload one now that expires prior to camp, should you go back in and upload it once you do the new one? Upload the new one once you have it. Yep. Once you have it, upload the new one. Okay. So camp also is doing free t-shirt. So on here you select the size and then if you wanted to purchase additional. So you'll get one free and then you can purchase an additional at that price. Uh so and this is not one that's required now. So this is like one of those questions that I would leave for the parent to do later on. I mean, it's mine. I know what shirt size I want. No. Um, so if a valid YPT certificate is good through the end of camp is uploaded, do you need to bring the physical copy to camp? No, because we have it. It's been uploaded into this system. We can download all of those. So um, I'm not sure about Gorton is this year. They had budgeted for it pre-merger. I do not know if Scout Haven or Samwood are doing it yet. I haven't gotten their finalized registration information yet. So we have the prices. I just don't know about the shirt and a few other things. So um, when they go online for naming phase, which is March 15th, I think it is, um, we should have an answer before that and be able to let you know that that's available there. One person is completing registration for troop with a boy and girl troop. No, you really need to, so the question was if you have a boy troop and a girl troop, two separate units, you need to do two separate registrations because of course, they are two different units. A registration is for a unit, and also to help us make sure that you're under youth protection guidelines, you have to have two adults per. So you cannot get away with three adults between your boy troop and this. I'm a great example, right? We're one troop, a boy troop and a girl troop. Um, and I have a separate registration for them because I can't go to camp with three adults, even though we're all dual registered across them. It can't be three. We actually have to have four. You have to have two adults that are going with the boy troop, two adults assigned to the girl troop. If you don't, then you don't meet the youth protection standards for it, and it becomes a provisional type unit. You'll definitely have other people mixed in with you because you don't have enough adults to be a unit. You're provisional, you also become provisional registration. So, and also for the advancement tracking, it makes it easier if it's under boys and girls because they are two different registrations and rosters. Now, this is different if I don't think we have anybody in this council. If anybody, no, we do. We have a couple of units in this council that are the under the test of the joined unit. Um, so that's where the boys and girls got merged into one unit. They have a registration and that's it. So they're the only ones that could be doing that right now. All right. So we'll go into one. So I have that part selected in there. Done. We're still canceling out on this. And we're going to autofill here. And you'll see now, this is the adults of my troop. And you could also type a search in up here if you needed to. Hang on, I'll read that question in just a second. I'm just going to finish this screen off. So fill in information and then update because I don't have everything. And it does require you to have everything to move forward on here. Upload file. Okay, click on done. Okay, so those. Okay, let me take a look at the question here real quick. Okay, if I have scouts who don't, if I have scouts who don't know if they can go with the troop or during a Provo week, can they go under the main registration or do they have to register separately? So if they're going to, so we don't have a provisional week. Provisional goes on every week. I assume you mean if they're not going the week of your troop, they're just going to go provisional on another week. Um, they would have a separate registration. Um, and you track it there because everything gets tied to that week. Your registration is tied to the week that you're going. If somebody's going on a different week, you'd need to create a registration, or they would, for the other week that they're going. So I'm going to pick on my troop again. Um, this is all down for week 3. I've had scouts who will go to an additional week of camp and maybe they're going to go week 2. I would create another registration on week 2 and have them going under additional week of camp and listed there because they'll sign up for merit badges in week 3 on this registration. We have to go into the registration for week 2 and sign up for merit badges there. So you can't, there is no selecting what week they're going in this registration. This one is already set to the week that they're going in. Okay. So while we're here, a couple other things before we move on to our payment and take care of that allocation thing that keeps coming up. Up here is where we have additional actions that we can handle a couple other things. So under additional actions, if you come back later on, it's like, oh, Timmy can finally go. And it could have been Tammy, just the name I'm using. I can add a participant. So if I do that, it's going to ask me how many of what type. It doesn't matter if it's an adult, if it's a youth, whatever. it'll ask me how many or which one, and then I will select that. So here's the 3 weeks merit badge only. So you have, and this is only because it's week 3 of camp. If you're on week 1 of camp, there is actually a discount for somebody who wants to go to all. If you have a somebody who wants to go to all 3 weeks of camp, we offer a discount for that. They register for week 1 for the price of 3 weeks, and then they need to get registered each week for the 3 weeks of camp, because this is what lets them do the merit badge sign up. So in week 2, it would be a registration category of 3 weeks merit badge only, and there's no cost to it because they already paid on week 1, but they register here because it lets them have the merit badge sign up, and then again on 3 weeks. And then if it was an additional week, so they're going week 1 and they want to go week 3, so reference the earlier conversation, you would register them for additional week of camp, not on the additional week, not on the other one, because they get a discount here as well for coming for an additional week. So 1 week is the full rate, 1 week is the additional week. And it doesn't matter which, to me, which one you're doing on it. Realistically, their first week should be the fully paid one. The second one should be the additional week. So you do that. And I will get to that question in just a second. I do see it there. So you'll see that you can change participant type. So if I put in somebody, it's like, and I'm just going to pick on my own kid for a minute, Eric here. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. He was a new Scout crossover. I don't know why I registered him as a Scouts BSA. He gets the discount because he was a crossover, new Scout including crossover. Well, then I can change him to that just by selecting that. I don't have to create a new registration. I can just go in and change that. Same thing if one of my adults is now becoming a part-time adult, so they can only be there a couple times a week. I could just switch the adult over to the split leadership adult as well and add my new one in. What you can't do is you cannot delete somebody out. Once you've checked people out, they're locked in, you cannot remove a registration. If there is a reason for it, like you haven't been able to get somebody else to take it, then contact us, and camp director and staff advisor will make the determination if it meets the criteria, and then we can remove it. You, on the other hand, once I saved all of this, if Ethan can't go anymore, I can just autofill and change Ethan to Austin. So that's what you would do for when one scout decides they can't go and another one's going to take their place. You don't have to enter in a new registration. You just replace the one that's going. So it makes it really easy to do that. And I'm just moving it back to one of the kids who's coming. Okay. So parent portal is again right here. So we go to turn on parent portal. Now, you have to have the names in here. It doesn't work when you don't have the names. So this gives you some step-by-step directions on it. I am turning on parent portal right here. And I can run the parent portal credentials as a PDF, or I can do it as an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm just going to do the PDF, and I'll share that with you in just a second. Once I get back to my screen. Okay, so right here, prevent parents from making payments. Well, I don't know why you'd want to do that. I think you would want the parents to be able to make payments. It's the best thing for parent portals, being able to do that. Again, allow parent portal class selection. You have to say that a parent can do this. If you don't turn it on, they can't do it. And then if you want emails to see how the payments are going along, if they're keeping up on it, this is showing you what the actual credentials are for doing it for the parents. And if you need to reset it for some reason, like somebody used the wrong one. I don't know. Somehow the Decker family got the McGrain family's password. They got the wrong kid. You could reset the information. So I'll show you what the credentials look like here real quick. So if you run the PDF version of it, this is what you're going to get that you can cut up and give to the families. So it has the scout's name, has the spot to log into, their ID number, and their password. You could also scan the QR code and go right to that. Now, the the other way to get into all of this, just in case they forget, is I come back to my Great Falls Council website. There's Parent Portal. So if they were to go on Parent Portal, look up Parent Portal, and then they put in the attendee ID and the password, and then they have access to their kid. And it'll tell you again, do you want to add another one? So if you have two kids in there, and it doesn't even matter if they're in the same week. You could have like my son and my daughter, they're going in the same week, but if one of them was going on week 1 and one's going on week 3, I can still do that because they both have Parent Portal accounts. I can add it in and it lets me manage both of my kids so I can make payments on them or answer questions like t-shirt sizes and allergies and things like that. So I push off a lot of that stuff to my families to say, your job to put it in there. Oops, going back here. All right. So once you've turned that on, it's on. And if for some reason you don't want it, you can go back in and turn it off. So there's that. And that takes care of the majority of these, the 3 dots, just so you see view credentials, because we turned on Parent Portal now. So I can click on that, and there's the information for it as well, in case you needed a quick access to it without rerunning Parent Portal. So over on this side, so the add a session. So because this summer camp runs 3 weeks, you can add another week, your whole unit. If your unit is going to go for an additional week, as opposed to having to type all the information in again, you can click on add session. And what week am I going to? Week 1, week 2. And I can do that. I can say everybody's going, they're all the same, or maybe certain people are going, and I'm not going to do this part. If I save, it is going to create a new registration for me on week 1. So, and you get that at the same time you did your deposit phase. Or if you didn't do deposit phase at all, you're going on now to create a registration, then you didn't have the kind of information and numbers, you're just creating a registration. During that process, you can, lack of a better term, clone your registration to another week. It will not let you clone 1 week of Gorton to 1 week of Scout Haven. The system, they're 2 completely separate events, so it won't let you clone to a different event. It will let you clone to the same event with multiple weeks involved in it. All right. So we go down here. So I still have this allocated payment. So we keep getting in that message. Okay, hang on. Let's see. If you enable Parent Portal and have parents and leaders entering information, is there a quick way to know if there's missing information, such as without having to go to each scout record individually? Yeah, as a matter of fact, we'll come back to that. Hold that thought. Yes, there is. So this allocate. So if I click on that, so it tells me I have all these people I could choose from. So what payment am I allocating? Well, I'm allocating that $100 payment. Now, there's another reason this will happen too. If you mail us a check and this registration says it's $2,230. If you mail a check for, let's say, $1,000 to the council office and you say it's for summer camp, if you don't tell us who we're applying, how much money to each person is, we are not going to distribute $1,000 evenly among everybody. We are going to put it in there as unallocated credit. It will show as another payment that you can use, and you have to allocate it. Now, if you send us a check for the full amount, yeah, we'll take care of all that. But if it's a partial payment, you're going to have to allocate it because we don't want to get it wrong. So what it would happen is you would go in, you'd have this allocate, and then your payment would show up here as this shows up this way because we paid with an online with a credit card. But the other one would be like a cash check. It'll be a store number up right here. But again, you click on the one that you want, tells me I have $100. I can do it. I can spread it among everybody. I can put it on one person. And I'm feeling generous to myself right now. So I'm going to put it on me. If you made a mistake later on, then you have to contact us so we can change it around. You will not be able to, once you save it, you're not going to be able to make the change. You would have to contact us if somebody oopsed it. So from there, we're all set. We got our payments ready to go. But oh, wait a minute. Mark, didn't you say something about camperships? Why, yes, I did. So we are going to pick on Eric. I'm going to be very clear about this. I am Eric. One is my son. Two, all the information I'm filling in on a campership is completely fake information. Don't take anything I'm saying on there. I am just filling it in to show you what it looks like. So these directions are also um, on the camp page, right, registration page, and this is true for all three of them. Under attachments, there is parent portal directions for leaders. This is for you to know how to turn it on. The steps I just went through, those are directions with screenshots of how to turn it on. Campership directions for parents. This is what you can give to a parent, and it walks them step by step on how to make out how to do the campership, which is what I'm going to show you, or you could, have them watch the video. So I'm going to update information. I'm going to scroll down. Okay, if you're applying for a campership, click on the box, select the link, fill out the information. When done, click submit, close, and you're back, and you need to click the box again. So I want to do this. So yes, I'm going to apply for it. There's my link. Now, realistically, you could click the link right here, but it always seems to confuse everybody. So I click this. This brings up the campership form. They all look the same. The only difference is I gotta make a change. Scout Haven and Samwood, I think they just changed it to April 1st because naming phase comes on March 15th. So unfortunately, this is a campership. It's tied into registration. It's not collecting information from registration. So the parent will have to duplicate. It's really important that they fill in the right information. So their unit, troop, you can actually search right here at the top. Okay, now here's why I say it's really important is they saw what the name was registered under. They need to be the same. Another reason I encourage using the login is because it tells us what they're registered under, which we also need it that way for doing your advancement import for you. So Ethan is not EJ. Emily is not Eli or Emmy. Whatever their registered name is, that's what we have to have. There's a nickname spot, and you feel free to put in their nickname, but don't use the nickname or abbreviation when you're filling in registration or campership information. We actually have to have the correct stuff. Whoops. Helps if I actually put in Eric's. So name. I did say I'm not putting any of the right stuff in here for you. Okay, everything's pretty much required on here. We're going to say what is his experience in 2025. He's going to summer camp. Okay, number of scouts in the family attending camp. Well, we'll say two. Anybody in college? Zero. Two youth in my household. We're going to say two adults, but my wife will differ that there's two adults in the household. Gross income, let's say 50. So it also tells you that you cannot get any more than 50%. You can request whatever you want. It will actually change the amount to 50. So I'm going to say 500. Whoops. If I move down to the correct part of the screen. So I'm going to say 500 is what I'm requesting. You see how this works? This is, and you'll see sometimes there's a question mark that has like more information. So family information, mandatory to be filled out. Tell us a little something. Okay, then we get down to parent or guardian information. I don't fill it all in. Okay, I understand that this is request for financial information for my scout to attend a Great Fall Summer Camp program on the basis of financial needs. Grants will be made on the basis of need and availability of funds and is no way a guarantee of an award. I certify that this information is true and accurate. Okay, then they need to put in a leader's name and the leader's email on one@com. Okay, and then we submit. Okay, they get a notice saying it's there. They can print out a copy of the form if they want. I don't want to print a copy of the form. Okay, so you'll see it's didn't take me right back, right? It's got a new tab open up here. That's why they're set up. Just come back to your other tab. It's here. Close that window out. Check the box again. And look, it filled in the amount. Notice it cut my request because I put in 500, but it's the most you can do is request half of the camp fee. So it pre-adjusted about that for us. So there you go. It will always do that. Of course, a family can put in for less. We've seen that. They just can't put in for any more than 50%. So I'm going to click on done and show you the changes here. So if we look at Ethan, the regular price of $610 currently has an early bird discount of $30, making his registration price this. Now we look at Eric, regular price of $610, early of $30, council program pending. That is his campership. $290 with a balance due of $290. Now, shortly after March 15th, let's say 2 weeks, camping committee will make a decision about the campership awards, and that will go from pending to approved, and whatever the change may be. So if they give Eric the full 290, then it becomes approved and it's set. If they give Eric, let's say $100, it will say approved 100 and it adjusts the balance due. These are done before the early bird rate ends, so families still have the ability to go in and pay off before a price change happens. Now that's important. These are all showing the early discount rates if paid in full by early bird date. If they are not paid in full, then it moves to the next rate. Same thing if not paid in full on the regular time frame, then it moves to the next rate when it hits the late fee time frames. There is no such. So the question is: there a rhyme or reason to how many scouts per unit may get a campership? Yeah, none. It's not by a unit; it's by a scout. We look at every scout personally and individually. So maybe everybody in your unit qualified, and that's fine. But there's no, oh, that unit got 3, they're capped. We do not do that. It's all based on individual scouts and their families. Everybody's different. Now, I will also tell you that, just so you're aware, when that campership is submitted, shortly after that is submitted, the unit leader, the one that was indicated, is going to get an email asking for some information about the unit. Does the unit participate in FOS? Do they participate in popcorn sales? A few other things on there, just to kind of help us, evaluate. And then they send that back, and all the information is used together. So we get through here, and we see that on this side here, regular prices here, council program pending for however many people. And again, you can always click on a magnifying glass to get more details. Total credit, which was the deposit, and that's been used now. Pending early bird discount, what our balance due is, and that tells you when the early bird's going to end. So now we can proceed to checkout, and I haven't forgotten about the other question yet. So we proceed to checkout. We have all of this. We can pay the minimum amount due. We can pay the full amount or pay another amount, and you can enter the other amount in. It just can't be below what's required. And then we go to checkout. Again, you've agreed to the cancellation policy and payments, whatever your payment information is. I'm just doing pay by mail for now because, not like I don't like you guys, but I'm not putting my credit card number in. Authorized payment. Now, Just so you're aware, if you do that pay by mail, the late fees it doesn't credit anything until the money is actually here. So what happens is when you send your payment into the office, any one of the three, or you go online and pay it later on, maybe you just didn't have the card ready. Um, None of the fees are reflected as being paid yet until we've actually gotten the money and receipted it into the system. So, same thing. If you mailed in a check, just as an example, you mail in a check to the office, we get it within a few days. You should be able to log in and see that it's there. The only thing we don't do, and it's just based on history, is we don't use, you give us a payment. Maybe you went to the scout store, paid it there. You got a receipt from the officer turning in it. We don't send you a receipt that it's been applied online, because every time I've done that, people start looking for a double amount. So I don't put that part on there. If a parent makes a payment from parent portal, do we need to allocate? No. So let me finish reading the sentence before I answer it. So if a parent goes into parent portal and pays, do you have to allocate? No, they paid it directly towards the person. So you don't have to allocate that, because you can make a payment to the unit as a whole. They cannot. They make it on their scout, and that's it. So let's take a look at this again. So we'll go here. Let's go with a minimal payment. Oh, doesn't like that one. Okay. So yeah. So I'm paying just the 300. Oh, it's not going to work because I don't authorize the payment. I don't not put money in. If I were to put money in, it's going to ask me to allocate those funds. But since I'm just doing pay by mail, it's not going to let me allocate those funds yet. But yes, when a parent does it, they have to pay on their kid. They can't pay for anybody else. They can't put it on the unit. So it goes directly to that person. And that's the other nice thing about this system is it will, if one person is late, the whole unit isn't late. It only applies to that one person. Um, so there's that. Now, the question on that came up earlier about knowing if stuff is missing. So under reports, so you have payment allocations that show you what payments are going on there. Prerequisite when merit badge signs up, information, summary, scout book export. Oh, looks like I'm missing the report for missing information. I'll have that up there. I'll have that up there shortly after we're done. There is a report in here for missing information that you can click on, and it'll bring you up a report showing who's missing information on registration. So I'm not sure why that one's not there, but I'll have it up tonight so that's on there. But that's where you'd see it, is the reports here. So we do not do camperships out of count. So the question is, what happens if a parent chooses out of council on a campership? There is no out of council. Um, the information is there. They can check that maybe they're going out of council for one camp. You know, in 25, you could have a kid that's going one camp, um, say, I don't know, Camp Shabbatnik. They're going there, and then they're also going to our camp this summer. You're selecting two because that's telling us that you're going to two camps, but you cannot get a campership out of council. We don't do those. Maybe the other council will do one for people coming in, but we don't. We only do camperships for those attending in council. We just need to know what their summer plans are. Because again, to explain that a little bit, and we'll go back to participant. I'm going to pick on one of the other kids right now. So if we look at their summer camp experiences, the reason we have like resident camp, Cub camp, Birchbark, other scout camp, family trip today, we're looking to see where they're going to do, because, if a whole bunch of these boxes are in, they're getting a summer camp experience, right? The whole purpose of a campership is not what people would call free money. It's to help a scout who would not otherwise have a summer experience. If somebody is doing multiple trips, multiple things this summer, probably not going to qualify. I mean, I'm not on the committee. I'm not going to give you a definite, but kind of hard to justify with the family who can't afford to even go to one camp. They should get a campership, as opposed to the family who's doing three or four things this summer and they're looking for money to go on to the other side. So Samwood is Cub Camp. So they've got Cub resident camp for Samwood, and they also have Cub Scout day camp. So yeah, that would be the areas that you're looking at for that. And this is on a scout list as well. So yeah, you'd be clicking on Samwood. I mean, clicking on that. Okay. So I am just gonna clear out of that, come back here. And again, I didn't do it. So we are good there. So at any time I can come right back into this and get there. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is get to my own email account. Okay. So this have been one of the emails that you got. Thank you for registering, blah, 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 blah. Anything that you may need, blah, 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 blah. View and or edit registration details, right? So I can click on that and it took me right into my registration. So, yes. So the question being, is there an additional deposit needed when entering scout names to the camp roster? Yes. So, depending on the camp that you're going to, there was a unit deposit of $100. And depending on the camp, when it goes to naming phase, each scout requires, depending on the camp, $50 to $100 deposit. So, yes, when you go to not one on the adults, but when you go to actually name, there was a deposit on all of them. So, yes, that's why getting back over to my payment that you know that's why it has amounts due on there because Gorton was 50 for naming phase. So with everybody that's there, that's what generated it that there. So yes. The other thing that's important to be aware of is when merit badge sign up turns on, you have to have at least half down on each scout in order to sign up for merit badges. So the system won't let, and it's got to be credited. So even if you did pay by mail, um, it has to be there. Yes, it's May. Hang on. It doesn't matter if you click pay by mail, it has to show that the payment's been recorded and that they're caught up. But if it's not that approximately half, it will not let them sign. It won't let anybody sign them up for a merit badge until then. And yes, merit badge sign up. Sorry, I got so many different dates going on in my head here. May 15th at 6 p.m. And that should be true for all the camps that merit badge sign up will turn on. Now there's also on these things, there is a on Gorton right now, you can find the class catalog, you can find the schedule for it. Um, I would encourage, for any of the camps that you're going to, that if you're taking care of the registration, the merit badges, that you have at least a um, first, second, potentially a third. All classes will have wait lists. Almost all classes have wait lists with them. As we get closer, we will do another webinar on just merit badge sign up, just to show everybody how that works. Can multiple adults register for merit badge? So can multiple people do it? So interesting question. So that's a thing with the system, right? So I would like the system, and they keep talking about it, to have multiple people that can access a registration to do it, and they don't. Um, they're looking at, like, I would like my treasurer to be able to go in and handle payment. Like I take care of registration, he can go do payment. But because of the amount of information that the system can collect, they don't allow that. Whoever creates a registration is the only one authorized to have access. However, I say that it will also let you be logged in multiple times. So realistically, if you don't mind giving somebody your name and password, which I would never advocate for, um, you could do that. You could also give them that link and they can go over to, this is from my email, right? So my email from here, view on the registration, it took you right into it. And then from here, they go over to participants. And like I said, we'll cover it later on. But when it comes time to merit badge sign up, it's under each kid, under update information. When it comes time, there will be a new box down here for merit badge sign up. So that would be a way to do that, of sharing the link or your thing there. Again, you could also let the parents do it as well. Okay, so that's a good question. This is just the naming time of what's going on between the merger of our two councils. So for us, what used to be Five Rivers, and now I'm just going to say it's the South, and WNY is the North. So in the South, we did our naming phase now. We turned ours on ours then. You guys, the North, they called it bunk deposits, which is the same thing. The naming phase. So what just happened with Gorton now, which we moved the unit deposit to individual deposit and naming phase. That's the same thing that your dunk deposits are. So that's when that is. That's all that switchover is right now it's only deposit phase. Just being able to go in and set a basic deposit and campsite preference. On that March 15th is when it opens up so that you can do the same thing. You can put the names in, apply for camperships, things like that, and then dates were moved accordingly for that. They were the ones that were set last year. And camperships are due by, like I said, I believe it's April 1st. So all those dates are just running accordingly. By next year, everything's going to be on the same thing. That's what their deposit phase was. So their per person, like Gorton's was already set for and promoted at $50 per person, and Scout Haven and Samwood were already promoted or advertised as $100 per person. So it's not that it's $50 for one day moving up. When theirs comes on to naming phase, you can't name, so you cannot name anybody until then. All you can do is go in, set a unit deposit, um, how many potential people you're going to have, and campsite preference. And yes, that'll be all the way up till 314. On 315, you can start naming people. So it's just a little bit more time to decide on that. And then you have the extra, the time from till 4/1. And it's on the registration page. I'm just trying to remember. 4/1, I think it is, that you have up until for camperships. So go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not sure I understand the question then when one day is not enough for what you're talking about. So I mean, feel free to ask me the question. I'm not sure I understand it.
So
And
what I'm
yes,
trying
Nate.
to ask is,
Hang on just one second. So Nate, yes, the cutoff is March 15th for camperships. They don't take them afterwards except for extreme circumstances. Okay, I'm sorry. What's the, I guess
so
what's,
on our registration right now on this site, it says our full registration opens in 38 days. But what you're saying is in 38 days, I'll be able to go in and import the people who are planning on going to camp. But we have to pay $100 bunk deposit by the 15th. Typically, we send a check to council for this, but if we want to allow parents to use the portal, we would have had to go in the day before, register everyone, and get them that login information. And one day is not enough to get all that done.
no. That's not how that is. So we're just working through our naming things on here. So the way Scout Haven is set up is right now up until um March 15th is just the unit deposit. All you can do is go in and set numbers and $100 unit deposit. Starting March 15th is where Gorton is right now. You'll be able to go in and put names, but now you have the individual deposits on the named people on there, and that's also where you would spend your or allocate your $100 deposit. Now that will go all the way. That time frame goes all the way up until whatever and forgive me, I can't remember the date. Whatever the late fee date is, that kicks in, which is a couple months later. So that $100, they could turn it on today, kind of like Gordon here. Gordon is at naming and all that. We just call it our naming phase, or that's what we did call it. And it was a $50 deposit. Scout Haven and I think Samwood were bunk fees, and that's a $100 deposit.
So that fee is not due the 15th?
No, it's not due the 15th. It starts on the 15th. That's when each person now has to pay a $100 deposit.
Because on the site it says that the bunk deposit is due 3/15.
That's when it begins. It's not
Okay.
it's not final payment due. It's just you can't do the $100 deposit after that date.
Okay. Who
So
do I
it
have to talk to then to get that fixed? Because right now it's specifically saying that it is due.
well, I mean,
Like who's in charge of that for Scout Haven?
well, it's camping committee as a whole. So Brandon Blatz is the camp director. Damon Beater is the program director. George Bacalus is the vice president of camping. Um,
Who would be the best person to talk to?
I guess any one of them. You know, it, yeah, I guess you could talk to any one of them about it. I think it's a matter of how it's looked at. It's due because it's due that day. That's when it first starts, and the registration's not actually official and locked until the money's paid. So it is due, but that's when it starts too. Kind of like our this one on Gordon, it's due. It opens on today's or Friday's date, maybe it was, and now it's the $50 deposit is due for everybody. There's no other amount. You can pay more. You just can't pay. You have to pay the $50 for them to be considered counted and registered.
Okay. I'll touch base with them. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, if I registered last, is the naming deadline for Gordon basically we're at the March 15th? So no, you can. So is the naming deadline for Gordon March 15th? No, you can keep the only thing March 15th is when you can't apply for a campership anymore. You can add scouts all the way up until registration for any camp shuts off. So each camp has some separate timelines on them, just because of when things open and close and when their camp dates are. But you can keep adding people for weeks and months. Generally, it's about 2 weeks prior to camp. Each week, I think it is when registration shuts off. So you can keep adding people all the way up till then, doing naming. It's just the camperships after March 15th. There's no application for a campership; it disappears. Um, and then if there's an extreme circumstance, then they can talk to the staff advisor. And then let's see if I registered last year to keep our site, but handed off the unit to a new CM. Can the register be into another? Yeah. Okay. So it's a good question. Uh so basically what the question is, and you're not seeing it here, but at the end of camp, when we have next year's built ready to go, for the most part, everyone who's going to camp now gets early access to go in and reserve their spot for next year. Get their deposit in, do their campsite selection early, and that's what he's talking about. It's actually called Site Saver, and once the week of camp you're in is there, you can go back into this registration, and there'll be a button right about here that says Site Saver 2026. Um, but the question but what if I'm not the person anymore? What if it's somebody else? So um, this can get fixed one of two ways. Either if you're not going to be the person anymore, but you know who it is, log in, go to the new registration, I would say, the one that you already created, and update the registration contact to the new person. And if for some reason that person is gone and they're not talking to you guys anymore, or they moved or whatever, let us know. We can go in and update the contact information and turn it into the correct person. And that would be a way to move that registration to the next person on there. Now, the other thing that's interestingly enough is if you created your camp registration, or especially for our friends in the north, if you registered early last year before the merger, we imported all of this information. If you haven't and of course, so you didn't have a login, but if you have a login now, or you make one shortly, it will actually automatically tie into your login. So though you have the receipt, because I sent a receipt to everybody I created one for, um, once you create a login, and as long as you use the same email, it will actually connect to that. Now, if you haven't made one and you make it tonight, it's supposed to connect by tomorrow, because they tell me every night it looks through the separated registrations looking for accounts that just aren't matched up to the registration, and they'll take care of it from there. So that's a great question. That doesn't usually come up. And the campership application is due the same day that we can enter their names into the system. No, I'm assuming you're talking about Scout Haven. That got moved to, it was originally going to be that, then the dates changed for the naming phase, bunk fees. So Scout Haven and Sandwood are now 4-1, I believe it is. Gorton, you can name now, and camperships are now, but the camperships end on March 15th. And like I said, Scout Haven and Samwood, they open up on, I believe it's March 15th, and their camperships end on 4-1, I believe it is. So can I go through importing a roster? I'm trying to import a roster for my Scout. Yeah, so no, you cannot import a My Scouting roster into it. That's not the design of it. So um, we import all the rosters. So this kind of an import in here is I'll bring up mine. Um, hang on. Which is edit selected roster. There we go. So I created a roster for my family of who's going and stuff and keep that up to date. You could um, fill one in there, but you cannot import it into the unit one. You would have to import it into the personal roster for that because since we take care of a unit upload, um, since we take care of the unit upload, you cannot do anything with these. The only thing you can do, I shouldn't say anything. We'll pick on 84B. The only thing you can do is here it's showing them blues are youth, red are adult. It's showing you the information it has on here, and I can go through and change ranks in case they didn't update. And I think I've got leadership positions here too. If I scroll, maybe not. Nope, it's pulling leadership positions from there. So about the only thing I can do is update their rank if it wasn't. Oh yeah, rank leadership position. So I can update those here so it corresponds correctly over. But um, you cannot add to this roster because it's a council managed roster. So if you wanted to import your other one, you'd have to do it inside of the personal roster. And let's see, if I turn on parent portal, do you need it? So yes, you can't, it won't let you turn on parent portal until the people are named. So I wouldn't have been able to, like, it wasn't showing me anything then because when I first showed you that, because the people weren't named. Um, so you do need to have names in there so it's associated to that. If you uploads under a different email, how do I get, if a unit upload is under a different email? So, Aaron, turn on for just a second and explain that one to me. If the unit upload is under a different email, so you created a login under one and your BSA email is under another?
So my personal email has our unit roster, and the person who did the camp registration put it under our pack email. So they're
Oh,
in two different accounts.
that's fine. So all I need, so um two different things can be done here. Either one, it can be an update of information here so it's to the right email, right? And that would take it from that person's login to the right login. The other thing you could do is if you wanted is if a committee chair or Scoutmaster will say in this case emails me to say please add Joe Shlabotnik with this email address to our roster. I'll manually add that in, and that would show up. The issue would be is that you would need to create a login under that email.
So I have the login created and I can see our registration. I just can't see the roster because the roster is under my personal email. So if I email you, I'm the committee chair. So if I email you, you can have it switched over to the other email.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And do you have your email listed?
Yeah, it's on the council website, but here I'll throw it into the chat room real quick.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if scouts think they're going now but change their mind and we do not have another account, then do we get so no, you have to get a hold. So if some this is why if somebody says they're going now but changes their mind later on, basically, and you don't have another scout, what do? This is where you really have to plan well in advance or risk losing portion of the money, which is on the whole agreement area on there. If they're not sure, I wouldn't register them until they're ready. If there was an extreme circumstance, then have the unit leader or the family get a hold of camp director or staff advisor. Each camp is different, and they can make a determination on it. But there, just because someone changes their mind is no guarantee that people will get any kind of a refund or a full refund. They might get a partial one depending on how far out it is. So if there's hesitation on going, I would, I personally wouldn't put somebody in my unit in until they're confirmed to go. Um, and then hopefully we can switch it to somebody else in that last minute or even somebody from another unit to join us if we had a friend. So I would be cautious about that, but that would be strictly with the camp director and the staff advisor. So yeah, what I would do, Nate. So the question is we have a unit registration for about 20 people. Is there an issue with only naming a portion of them for the campership deadline? Yeah. When you do that right now, absolutely there will be because you're going to the phase where it wants the names and the required information in there. So what I would do is just go, and I'm making up a number, just register 10 right now and then add the other 10 in later on. So put the 10 in now, name them so that they can get the camperships taken care of. And then when the other 10 are ready, then add them in. You can always go and add more people later on. So that's what I would do to take care of that because that's a great thing about getting those camperships taken care of. And then absolutely my pleasure answering questions and feel free to get a hold of me afterwards. You think of this thing later on. I'm on the council website. Uh, I just gave everyone my email address. Any one of your professionals can give you my phone number. I'm more than happy to help out. This is what I do is answer these types of questions and help people through their issues. So please don't hesitate to get a hold of me with these things. And I realize this is an all new system for a good half of our council. As a parent, should I ask the leader in charge of Scout Camp to put in for a campership? I'm asking as a parent. This is a little overwhelming for me. That I'm going to tell you that is entirely up to you. Um, I, me as a leader, so I'm a parent of my kids, and I am the leader in my unit. I'm a community member. I mean, I'm not the scoutmaster, but as the person who handles all the registrations, I don't want to know there's a reason. I don't want to know the finances of the people in my unit or answer some of those questions. If they really, really want me to, I will sit down and walk it through it with them. But I wouldn't want to be the one doing it for them because I'd want to make sure the information's all accurate. However, in your unit, whatever works for you guys, there's the leader can do it, right? They have access to the system. They can fill in that form just as easily as a parent can. So it really boils down to what the unit decides. So, okay, not the treasurer. I'm a new scoutmaster. If I click that, I'll pay later. Yeah. So I did all of this, all this naming and stuff I did before I even went to checkout. So we do all this checkout, and that's an important part is checkout, whether you're paying the payment or pay by mail, that's locking in these kids' registration. That's saying that these are the kids that are going. It actually puts the name, which lets you build your parent portal. And you need to have that part there. So yes, you can absolutely get the names in there with just a pay by mail because it doesn't even know what you're doing as far as a payment until you're actually done. So it's still treating it the same way. Yep. And my pleasure. Happy to help.